examiner of the day, Dr. K. Kandimadi ma'am. A warm welcome, ma'am.
Thank you.
And I also welcome the controller of examinations, deans, directors, HODs, and professors, research scholars, and other participants as well. And first, let me introduce the external examiner. Our university has actually chosen Dr. Kanti Mehdi as our external examiner for Mr. Suman Raj's Ph.D. VIVA VOCE examination. Now, she's a senior professor at the Department of English, SCND Weissner College. And we're so happy to have such an experienced person for our VIVA today, because she's almost over 20 years of teaching experience in the field of like education. And she did a PhD in IIT, so everybody knows the knowledge a PhD candidate from IIT would have. So I'm so happy that she's our external examiner today. And she also did her MA in Madras Christian College, and she did her BA in Madurai Kamaraj University, that is Vanni Perumal College of Arts and Science. She has attended like a number of workshops and conferences. She has presented numerous papers in both national and international conferences, and she's also published many journals. We just keep on talking about those histories, and it'll take a lot of time. So, such a vast knowledge in all avenues of literature, and she's also she's a chief editor in some of the journals, like both the International Journal of Research and Humanities, and she was also a chief editor in English language and literature in the millennial milieu, and also language, literature, and culture in cosmopolitan world, and new dimensions in literature, millennial perspective. So these are some of the journals where she's been editor-in-chief for English journals and papers. And she's also guiding a number of MPhil scholars and PhD scholars as well. So she has produced a PhD scholar from Annamalai University, that was in 2016. And she's also guiding another 4 PhD scholars under her supervision. And so she is an official supervisor from Madras University. And she's also attended so many PhD vivas like what we are having today. So I hope that she is one of the ideal examiners who we can think of in our state, and I hope she's a well-known person and a very reputed person in the academic field in our state. I'm sure I can imagine that not only in our state, she will also be a well-known person in the other states as well, because she's also attended a lot of conferences and she has given a lot of lectures, talks on various subjects as well. So, ma'am, we are honored to have you here with us today, and we're so happy, ma'am. I also would like to welcome you again for today's event, ma'am. But I also would like to say a few words about the research scholar, Mr. Suman Rajas. Now, he's one of our research scholars and effective research scholars in our department, and he's actually published 6 Scopus journals based on his research, and he's also published other journals. Like there are like 12 journals he has published pertaining to his research. He has attended a number of conferences and workshops related to the research work. Now he's here today, which will be the final day of all the research scholars. Whatever the number of years they go through in their research work, it is all focused at or directed at today's day. That's the final day. that is the Ph.D. by VOCE examination. So he is defending his title, research title, under like reflections of postmodern theories in the select novels of Thomas Pynchon. So I hope that he's going to present his presentation pretty well, and I also hope that he will defend his research work perfectly. And over to you, ma'am. Thank you all. Ma'am, you may say a few words, and then you can give a go to the research scholar, ma'am.
Yes, so thank you, Professor Suresh, for that generous introduction.
Welcome.
And I have gone through the thesis and the research work, extensive research work that the candidate has done. Yes, a very good number of publications the scholar has. So without much ado, let us start off the proceedings so that uh, I'm sure the candidate is quite anxious to present his research work to all of us. So let us listen to the scholar first, and then we'll take up the next part.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
So over to the scholar.
Thank you.
Scholar, yes. Thank you.
Can I start, sir? Can I start, sir? Hello?
Yes, you can. You can start, yes.
Good morning to all. Let me start with my thesis title, Reflection of Postmodern Theories in the Selective Novel of Thomas Pynchon. Here I have selected 6 chapters. Chapter 1, Introduction. Chapter 2, Review of Literature. Chapter 3, 4, and 5, I am explaining postmodern themes and techniques in the selective novels of The Crying of Lot 49, The Gravity Rainbow, and Manson and Dickinson. Chapter 6, Conclusion. Next, my objectives of thesis is to study about importance of postmodernism, to identify the postmodernism found in the selective novels, to find out importance of postmodernism. Finally, to examine the role of postmodernism in the American novels. My research questions are: how can one determine the importance of postmodernism themes and techniques? How lack of postmodernism affect in the modern society? How does really postmodernism gain an attention in the modern society? How does postmodernism access in the hands of the present and the past world? How to gain them back? Finally, can postmodernism bring changes in the quality of human being? Next, select a writer, books, and the themes and the techniques applied. The Crying of Lot 49 in 1965, Gravity's Rainfall in 1973, Manson and Dickinson in 1997. 3 journals I have selected for this thesis. In the thesis, Thomas Pynchon's novels The Crying of Lot 49, The Gravity Rainbow, Manson and Dickinson are taken to analyze the above stated elements and techniques and the meaning critically. Thomas Pynchon was born on 8 May 1937 in United States. He is an American novelist. Pynchon is not only a novelist, but also a short story writer. The Crying of Lot 49, The Gravity Rainbow, Manson and Dickinson are one of the best examples of postmodernism. Chapter 1. The era of postmodernism is a product of Enlightenment project, which is commonly acclaimed as a careful moment. It is worth mentioning here that the introduction is to throw some lights on the modernism and its impact of the child baptized as postmodernism. Modernism defined itself as anything which is new or review on art or in any field, whereas in literature, postmodernism spell out with a higher degree of elitism. Elitism is an intellectualism in literature. Modernism not only in art, but also in the scientific development and politics. The postmodernism is not simply a spell of chronology, rather it extends a valuable definition. What Wolfgang says that post may be classified into the three meanings. There are inauguration of the new art, humanity, second on honor. The term post states historical chronology, performance of the traditional way of practicing Christianity and concept established by the westernization. That's why he says that the first meaning of post is the inauguration of new direction. That's why he says that the mythical culture, myth and metaphysics. They say that God has created the universe. God directs the people according to their wish. This kind of the narration is given through myth and metaphysics. People create the myth, but inverse the myth create the people. This process called structuring. This thesis is tended not to tick out new ideas, but to present a critical study of postmodern themes and technique in the selective novels. All the selected novels are by skilled postmodern writers. The postmodern elements are intertextuality, historiographic, metafiction, absence of characters, science fiction, the Western, the pornography, and other elements. These elements are critically viewed in the selective novels stated above. Very often, any reader can come across the critically viewed in the selective novels stated above. Very often, these are the American novels art it reflect upon the postmodern history and science fiction. Themes and techniques. Parody. It is a literature and animation imitation of the style and manner of the particular writer or school of writers. Parody is a typically negative intent. It calls attention to the writer's perceived weakness. Metafiction. The act of writing about the writing or making readers aware of the fictional nature. The very fiction they are reading. Historiographic. It refers to the works that fictionalize actual historical events or figures. Parane, it is a term sometimes used to describe works of literature that explore the subjective nature of the reality and how it can be manipulated by the force in power. Chapter 2. In literature, it manifested itself not only one thematic level, the changing nature and understanding of art and its form. Thus, art stated to be a scene not separated, but the part of reality and experience. Art became closer to the public and was often presented in the form of show, happening, or performances. Postmodern literary work does not pretend to be a new or original. Postmodern literature is closely connected with the development of advanced information and communication technologies. In connection with these, artists' work does not pretend to be authentic, but built its meaning on the recombination and reconstructualization of the exciting form, materials, and objects. Chapter 3. The Crying of Lot 49 is the best notable example of postmodern fiction and the shortest story of Pynchon novels. This novel deals with conflict between the mail distribution companies. Pynchon has adopted all the scholarly techniques. He is not directly giving the information in the novel, but he is involved the readers to search for the meaning and cull out the meaning from the text. It is once again up to the readers to find a swing between the real and imaginary world. Odiba is the protagonist, almost to become the detective in the Southern California. The reader's opinion, the character in the text on the search of the property, which is really does not exist. This is the important aspect of the postmodernism. People seriously involve and contemporary issues of the text to understand the parody in the Pynchon Lot 49. Odiba is the protagonist and the homemaker in America, set out to investigate to discover underground organization named Tristo, working in subversion of the UVS mail. Bynson takes the reader to state of the confusion whether the events happen in the real world or the imaginary world or somewhere in between the two. The play is projected the Lot 49, slightly a different America. In California, Christ Empire will restore the post-war America from its social evil. Here, Bynson makes the readers to feel he is untying the complex knot, but later he reads come to know that he is not untying the knot, but he is adding one more knot to make it further complex. There are many evidence in the text that Odiba is hallucinating. She is not in her normal mental state. Bynson presents the mental imbalance of people who suffocate and who cannot accept the reality of contemporary America. But most of the Americans suffer from this problem because they are isolated from the society, especially after the World War. Thomas Bynson too follows the same in his Gravity Rainbow. He is also taking more vital role to play infuse the nature of the postmodernity and it influence some among the readers of Bynson. Bynson has adopted scientific concepts. The Tristo organization runs under the banner of waste. The novelist also portrayed unpleasant contemporary life in America. Bynson gives the necessary detail of the injustice of European history, especially the struggle for the freedom of 1848. And also the fight between the Tristo, this struggle continued till 1849. Earlier, America was a land owned by none, but the later people started to move to America and started moving to land to explore the dig land in search for gold. For finding the gold, many slaves were brought to the land during 1849. The slaves struggled a lot. The crying and struggle of these slaves in 1849, the California is named as the crying of Lot 49 by the novelist. 49, the title of this novel, may signify the last two numbers of the year 1849. Pynson's use the language in this text is very complex and difficult to the reader to understand because the author makes use of adventurous, scientific, and technical language to express the feeling various character, especially Odiba. The Lot 49, he has infused more elements of postmodernism, adventures Odiba undergoes in searching with all her full enthusiasm and anxiety to identify who is Tristo to know that is Lot 49. Odiba, who is a central character, undertake a serial of adventures, themes and hidden by the novelist. Odiba is going to on search for her own identity with another world, but which is misconstructed by her. In order to know the real world, she wants to take upon another world which is not real. But in Crying of Lot 49, in the integration between the reader and the text is metafictional one. And the relationship between the reader and the technique is a heterologic one. That's why novelist himself parodies the culture of contemporary America, and the Lot 49 is a more than criticism of the contemporary world. Chapter 4. Thomas Bynson's Balance is a brilliant novel. The presence of patience and violence can be perceived on the formal as well as thematic level in Gravity Rainbow. Bynson does violence to the text by making use of the numerous novel fiction techniques. Gravity Rainbow is a set in England, France, and Germany occupied in 1944 and 45. It is thick references, is a flashback of the World War II. Then the novel itself resists the most moment towards death and stillness by this variety of the styles, complexity of structure, and fantastic comedy. This real project to explore the system that makes Gravity Rainbow an exceedingly difficult and exciting the novel. In the novel, Germans and Americans, Russian and Englishmen form the commercial links, but sell product by pattern and generally determine the orderliness of the market before, during, and after the war. As Bynson suggests, this multinational to control everybody, the facilitate technology, innovation, production, and creation of the job all over the world. The characters in Gravity Rainbow pass through man-made construction. They archways and underpasses that are extension of the forms in their mind. But in the process, they unfailingly encounter the unknown and unknowable. The major character, with his expert of William at the one crucial point, waves line of linear connection between the people and even at the circumstances in the effect of obviate the forming process itself. By encomposing and transcending, it's the most basic principle of organization here. Gravity rainbow is more so complicated that is forms a kind of Gordian knot which can be cut through only by institution. It cannot be comprehended by logic analysis alone. The rocket can be assumed as a central figure in the gravity rainbow. Pynchon create a version of the wartime England around the rocket and its production. It can be seen the possess mainly two aspects. One, program for the death, it's evil, but it also promises life. Here, the parabola of the rocket is a cut up by the integral from the base line stretched between the rocket's point, the firing, and its point of impact. The rocket trajectory is one of the most important aspects of this novel. The novel always searches for something in new its irritation or interpretation. But the V2 rocket launched in London crashed before the sound of its flight could be heard because it traveled faster than sound. Pynchon sang the conventional narrative way because conventional narrative procedure had become obsolete. The rocket worshippers frame out experience in closed system or symbolisms. Here, Pynchon exposes his characters to a nexus containing void, silence, and illuminations. This is repetition operates in the two ways. It opens a character's mind to something beyond the material reality and it demonstrates that symbols for all they hidden paints you forward. Are helpless to describe or tamp or control this aspect of extents. Another kind of repetition here, seen in the gravity rainbow, is the termed activity as game. There are the mainly attitude towards a humanity. The characters feel that professional activities that they engage in are more in the nature of the games. Goal and rules certainly appear arbitrary, not satisfied by any human value. Cultural people are some extent controlled by the symbol system here. These symbol systems do not provide any ultimate meaning because a system are helpless when faced with a void, whether that the void is radiant or merely empty. Here, Binds suggests that the action of the human being living in this world are being observed by the titans or angels. Pynchon has populated Gravity Rainbow with enormous of cost of character. There are over the 400 carrying to almost barrack extreme the tendency of the fiction of the World War II. In addition of the Pynchon easily noticed and often comic descriptions of eccentric character, he undertakes the most scholarly studies. He presents considerable raw information about human psychological traits. But the rocket reaches the roof of the motion picture theater at the very end. All of the action between the two events take the place in the imagination during the interval between the perception of the rocket and its fall. Even if this possibility cannot be accepted the uncertainty about the time of the rocket's firing its location. But the title Gravity Rainbow suggests opposition is a different way. Rainbow obviously invokes the rainbow in the book of Genesis, was God's covenant and Noah. Gravity, on the other hand, is that the law by which all things upon the earth are finally, it is absolutely neutral promises that all living things will die. The rocket becomes the home since it contains the living figure of the god Fright and becomes a coffin because it is embodies death and prevention of all giving love and sexuality. Mindzones form an analogy between the history and geography. In the case of Malta, this historical context justifies an effect in the gravity rainbows to obtain the German rocket secrets. So one of the aspects which I have to contributed most of the confusion about what Bindzone is trying to tell the reader is shifting stance of the narrator. But it is quite evident that through the various innovative postmodernist techniques, Bindzone is aesthetically transforming aggressions and violence by entering the theme with a fictional form. An attempt has been made explore these themes in Gravity Rainbow in the backdrop of the Second World War. Chapter 5. Thomas Pynchon's latest historical novel, Manson and Dickinson, was certainly conceived in the spirit and published in 1997. The American Revolution, the text follows the double temporal perspective that both looks forward to the revolutions from the period of the time period to it and look back to it from the position 10 years after the event. Thus, anticipation and the memory, two central modes of the experience history, are integrated into the novel's narration. In reflecting upon the historical condition of the American past, Mason and Dyson is a very much comment upon the present day. However, for Wine Zone, time is not a story with the beginning, middle, and end. Manson and Dyson is the filled with alternative histories and alternative words. Manson and Dyson adventures would be have been like had they abandoned their commissions and continued the line westward. While the text displays the essential future or traditional historical fiction in this meticulous correct the description of the past event. The host of formal peculiarities call attention to the Bynson fictional reconstruction of history. But Manson and Dyson is not only developed in the text principal topic, but it is also reflect it is a narrative structure which enacts, dramatizes, development of social discourses. Bynson's integration of history, reconstruction in Manson and Dyson examine the thematic and the stylist characters of the text and embodies the interdetermined and the nature of the historiography. History in the modern words, oracle, how we remember and understand the past and the past has a direct bearing in how we navigate the present and anticipate the future. However, histories are ultimately provisional, subjective, and indeterminate, not directly describing the world at a particular time, but rather presenting is a partially the temporally bound as a worldview. Indeed, the very act of organizing the past even into the narrative necessary involves the process of selection on the part of author, whereby conscious choices are made concerning what is included and what is discarded from the account. Here, fine zone implies that those who control the history control the memory of the people. Thus, the morally or legally policies. Benson's treated himself and the Manson and Dyson in addition to collapsing the traditional boundary, separating fact and the fiction. Benson's lands a deep integrations of officially endorsed the narrative that establish facts which serve the interest of the governments. But Bynton's defense of the fiction on then it is not a rejection of history, but rather an integration of the notion that any particular kind of discourse necessarily provide a more authentic, privileged understanding of the world. But the primary task of his historian was thus to be develop nation histories and that envelope provincial and rural groups of citizens of the nation, even if these people had never previously recognized social or political ties outside of their communities. But the following section will examine the characteristic of the device, consider its the thematic implication, and discuss relationship to historiographical metafiction. In Manson and Dyson, Bynson takes the characteristic it's to logical extreme, not only incorporating into the novel staggering number of the literary, but the textual form as stylistic conversion from the 18th century cultural. The power of communication here in directing and coordinating public action is a common theme. Binds on fiction, but indeed here he is fascinated by the subversive channel of the information that are free from the government control. In conclusion, Manson and Dyson enacts the function of discourse as a socially and politically transformative act. The novel, despite that dramatizes, however, conceptions of the past, the social order, and even ourselves are created and recreated through the ongoing process of discursive evaluation, and social ideological become the history, memory, identity, and the government are not fixed denominations of the natural, the world for a social construction that are developed. But discussing the modes, particularly in the novel and history, were instrumental and initiating the elements of the worldviews that enable accent of the nation as the modern world supreme from the political organization. But here, Bynson helps to explain why Manson and Dyson is a historiographic metafiction novel. Manson and Dyson explore the symbolic system which we create to define relationship to each other and the world. Rather than contemplating the social construction and gesturing towards some abstract universal truth, but Mindstones evokes the profound human needs, the fears and desires from which these discourses emerge, to further implication that we are ultimately responsible for the social reality that we create by our common home and go in dependence of the dependence on the finite or space this living planet. Chapter 6. However, postmodern sociology can have no concept of postmodernity, since the social is collapsed into the cultural. On the other hand, social political analysis reveals that the hyper-real world of simulation, the global network of the media and the market, which is the postmodernism associated itself. But in fact, linked to the process of globalization, traditional cultural identifies associated with the ritual race they had in the form of the various fundamentalisms and the technologically advanced postmodern age. But the end of the 20th century, development in the field of information and communication technology helped the process of expansion of the Taylorism to all sectors of industry. Within the postmodern discourse, one is called upon the mourn of the death of ideology and loss of the critical subject. But postmodernism not only invalidates to the knowledge practices of the modernism, it is also destroyed the intellectual associated with those practices. But the postmodernism scholarly surrenders to the ideological structure of the market and the media. Without the political philosophies, he loses his subject personality. He can never again to study anything since he has placed with a structure of double crossing that oppose analysis. But finally, I conclude the postmodernism not just refutes the information practices of innovation. It like those the scholarly connected with the those practices all above the discussed postmodern theories found in the Thomas Bind zone, the crying of Lot 49, gravity rainbow, and Manson and Dyson. Scope for the further study. Since this research talks only about the selective novels of Thomas Bynchon, but there are the scope for the further research for others. Researchers can choose the other novel and they can either make a comparative study of their research and this present research is, or they can work on this particular research as well as the elaborate the topic of past and present postmodernism, civilization theories in the selective novel of Thomas Bynchon. Limitation of the study. Every research has its a limitation, its a limitations respective subject. In this research, only certain novels have been chosen. There are so many topics with this research can be done, but in the research, reflection of postmodern theories in the selective novel of Thomas Bynchon. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Suman Rajesh. That was a very elaborate presentation. I'm happy to inform the gathering that both the examiners, the Indian examiner as well as the foreign examiner, both of them have commended the work of the researcher, and Of course, they have raised a few questions also. Anyway, it is maybe some clarifications, which I'm sure the researcher can provide. I'll just ask one by one. Will the candidate respond one by one, or would you like to take them all and respond together?
One by one, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, right. I don't know this is from Indian examiner or from the foreign examiner, but I'll just read out the question for you. I want you to respond the answer.
Okay.
What are the bottom line conclusions of your research, and how innovative or valuable your research is? You can respond to that.
That's the right question. I expected that one. So, in the process of analyzing the postmodern themes and techniques in the reflecting the selective binds of novels, the research arrives at the conclusion. But the postmodernism not just refute the information practices of innovation, it likeness like scholarly connected with those practices and also has a actualized effect upon the people identifies in like a different way of American culture. Here is a quoted something. So based on the postmodern theory and after the impact of the World War. I hope you understand.
Fine. Thank you for the clarification. Uh, Another question raised by the examiner is how do your findings fit with or contradict the rest of the literature in this field? Because there's a lot of literature available in this field. So how does your finding fit or contradict?
The finding are not working here with exciting the ideas how I find. So however, it adds to exciting the field of research in literary theory, particularly postmodernism. Even though postmodernism is developed in the France and later on it has been spread all over the world. The vastness of text and journey in the world, literature has necessitated postmodern perspective in the such text like the search of analyzing binds on novel in the additional to the postmodern discipline. The reader, the novel of the writer in the postmodern perspective in the American literature, particular fiction, I believe that the research adds to the exciting ideas of the radical undermining of the rationality and mimetic the principle which has significantly influenced postmodern authors could be found.
Okay, fine. I think this is another examiner's question. What is the basis of the chapterization? And he has raised a question as to why did you allocate chapter to each novel instead of organizing the thesis based on themes and techniques?
Because
So
this is thesis has a 6 chapters. So introduction, literature review, and other 3 chapters are telling about the postmodern themes and technique, the selective 3 novels. But here I selected for the research and has discussed the postmodern themes and technique that can be seen in the novel and the final chapter of the conclusion to conclude the arguments. As for the analysis part, I have chosen to discuss the chapter section on the basic of the novel rather than grouping them under the themes and the techniques. Each of the novel has got different themes and techniques. There are certain themes and such as cyberpunks are like a thread runs in on his novel, but there are the significant themes that are different from each novel. For example, in The Crying of Lot 49, one of the themes in the Fahrenheit subjectivity of analyzed and society portrayed in the novel. It is not the exciting America, neither has got a complete drive. Here are the via elements. I would like to call the postmodern city like a second chapter, like a novel, a Gravity Rainbow. The Baronia dehumanizing can be similar to the previous chapter, but the other techniques such as like recommendations are coming steps are present to the violence of a dell of the novel. But here, third chapter is analyzes the Manson and Dyson, a historical novel. So all Manson and Dyson, full and full, what happened? It is like a mixed with the historiographical and reality of the world. I hope you got it.
right. Yeah, fine. Convincing. Okay, another question raised by the examiner. What is the role of parody in Crying of Lot 49? And how does Thomas Pynchon deal with parody and intertextuality?
Paradise plays because here Paradise plays important role in the novel. For example, from the beginning, I have mentioned clearly for the what are the themes and techniques has been accumulated in this novel. But here in this binds on Paradise American culture, especially in the California, and the California is a novel because starting from like a crying of Lord 49, the main protagonist as a Odiba. So here's the Pines on Paradise, Revenge of the Tragic third chapter. He is imitates the Everence drama order to mock and make the fun of that. The definition of intellectuality, like a making of relations between the two texts, which has effect upon the way of which interacts. So here is what I try to say that a simple example is that the paradise is the singer, the plant can be referred to the petals. The most of the genuine example binds on marked intellectuality is the incorporation of the verses, the curious tragedy. Plays, pose, scenarios, chapter of the meant by Parallel Odiba's coast and her the encounter with the different fates of the American reality, but because she's finding more about like the way of she's supposed to find the tri-store the who is one is like a distribution of the mail, but even wherever she has go accumulating one place to another place, she is knowing about the life of the American, like most of the American they were like helpless, they lost the everything after the world war. So still she could not find what is the real life of America, are the real citizens are being in America. That's why totally what happened, it has been changed the contemporary of American relation.
Right.
Thank you.
Just one more question from the examiner, from the external examiner. Since there are three novels that you've selected, and the three of them are spread across different decades, to what extent can you associate the dimensional differences reflected within them from the perspective of postmodernism?
Here is why the three novels like a Crying of Lot 49, Thomas, I mean Crying of 49, Gravity Rainbow, Thomas and Bryant's, Dyson and Manson and Dyson, because three novels are linked with the historiographical, based on the history, what is connected with what happened exactly in 1966, 1944, 1786, respectively. This time setting up has a significant difference, but all this novel, but in the postmodernism view, history is ultimately provisional, subjective, and indeterminate, not directly describing the world or particular time, but rather representing the partially and contemporary bond of the worldview after the world. It is commonly I can easy to identify like a world war. I mean, all three novels are like after the world war, and it is some novels are during the world war time. After the what kind of the changes has been happen in the society.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Suman, for addressing the questions raised by the examiners. In fact, there's one more question. I think during your presentation you have explained about it, so I'm not. I feel that that is already answered. I have a question.
Sure, please.
Can I ask my question?
Yes, of course, my friend.
Right. Uh, what is reflexivity? What is Pynchon's idea of unified self and self-reflexivity? And how does he dismantle the self?
If you don't mind, can you repeat once again, ma'am?
Yeah, sure. What is Pynchon's idea of unified self or identity, unified self, self-reflexivity, and how does he dismantle the self?
What is the here is the minds on all the when you calculate in three novels like Manson and Dyson, The Crying of Lot 49, and Gravity Rainbow. Commonly, like what happens here, each and every characters of the novels, it will be totally enormous character of that in the novel. Each characters what happened he has defined in the different way of aspects, and also all three novels are what happened like a self-expert, like each and every people is totally it will be the changes of their character, and they are being with the society after the world war and what are things that happen over that, and the stories and also imaginary world the people they adopt in that situation. I hope you got.
Okay, a little convincing. I'll just ask you one more, and then we will maybe the audience can
Okay.
ask questions. Um, what is the other aspect in which you feel that Pynchon's works can be taken up for further studies? You have analyzed the postmodernism angle. So, in case somebody else wants to take up a study on the same writer, maybe with the same text, what other aspect do you think you can suggest?
I can suggest like a future scholar, they can take civilization, revelation of contemporary Americans after the World War II. I suggest this one.
Okay, fine.
Thank you.
Uh, Thank you for answering all the questions. The floor is open to the audience. Those who are waiting online, you can just raise a few questions. I think that will help the candidate uh, establish himself as a great scholar. So I would be happy if others can also ask a few questions.
Hello, Suman. This is Gomati.
Yes, ma'am.
Shall I ask you a question?
Yes, of course, ma'am. You can.
Yes. Actually, could you tell me how Thomas Pynchon's work view the religious and spiritual ideas reflected in his novel Gravity's Rain?
It's a, I appreciate this question. Thank you so much for asking this one. In the stage of the World War II, like a United States and Soviet Union, teams scientists into the newly liberated religion of the countries and Eastern Europe. Their mission was to locate the German scientists, like knowing to be affiliated with the country effects to the developing the rockets, the ballistic missiles. So here is the crackling alliance between the US and the USR and the alliance of the conventional bond of the common enemy. But here was already fracturing, like the emergence of the would become back to the Cold War. Cold War as a taking the shape. And early as the dangerous of the manifestation of the birth of the Cold War was a race between the post supreme, the power between the long time missile and the territory of the people. I hope you understood this.
Thanks, Suman.
Thank you.
Yeah, maybe one more question. We can permit one more question.
May I ask a question? I'm Sufina.
Yeah.
So I have like it is not a question, but I need a little clarification. So, do you think the writings of Pynchon has a impact on society or reflects the society? If yes, can you tell me what is Pynchon's Gravity Rainbow's impact on society?
Um, I appreciate this question. Gravity Rainbow is stripped in the lifestyle and the politics of the counterculture. It asks the questions such as alternative cultural practices led to change the social history. Can culture transform the particularly capitalism or Western civilization? But in 1960, listening to the different music, wearing the difficulty clothes, doing tracks, not only they defined the culture norms, but here is an altogether new order of the being. People in the counterculture hold, for the example, the flowers of force love would be stop the missile by changing the consciousness of the missile makers. The novel provides tones of the fun, satisfaction of sighting, then with the epic of good guys, the turn of the revelation or transgressions, of course, of love at a loud clarity. I think you, I hope
Yeah,
you,
thank you.
thank you so much.
Uh, is there any more question? Dr. Suresh, if there are no more questions,
Um, Participants, please go ahead with any questions. Not like you should
yeah.
always question. If there's anything to appreciate, you can also come up with that as well.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, ma'am. Hi,
Yes.
Suman. I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Uh, how can I write a paper on modernism and postmodernism focusing on The Crying of Lot 49 by Thomas Pynchon?
That's a good
Pynchon,
question.
sorry.
In the Crying of Lot 49 by Thomas Pynchon is often recorded as an example of literary postmodernism. His novels, most of the novels are only the postmodernism. But just as modernism undermined many of the older certainty of the positivisms, so postmodernism attempts the deconcentrate, construct the underlining of assumption of the modernism. But in your essay, you should begin with by the discussing the particular themes and theories of the modernism that are the focus of Bynson deconstructive project. Because most of the appropriate for the novel would be as a psychology content of this postmodernism. I hope you
Is the answer convincing to the person who asked?
Thank you, Suman.
understand.
It was convincing. Thank you.
Fine.
Anyone else?
Hello.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Hello. Can I ask a question?
Yes, you can.
This is Arvind. First of all, I would like to thank Suman for his wonderful presentation. This is not a question, but I wanted to know from the candidate, what do postmodernists believe from your point of view? What do postmodernists believe?
It's a right question to know about that. Thank you, Arvind, this question. Like what I try to say that is many postmodernism hold one or more following. I mean, the view will be there. But my point of view, like there is no objective reality and there is no scientific or historical truth on the novels. Science and technology are not vehicles of the human progress but suspect instrument of established power. The third, the reason and logic are not inversely valid here. And the language does not refer to the reality outside itself. That's why there's a crying of Lot 49, Manson and Dyson, the gravity rainbow. Bynson has mentioned clearly there is enormous of character and also all the technical contents. What are the things he has written? It is readers they could not easy to follow the all the terms. Most of the terms are converted like it is like a scientific oriented. I think you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All the best.
Thank you.
Yeah. If we have any more questions, I just thought I'll also, other than asking questions, I should also present some of my observations, some of the appreciations that the examiners have also mentioned in their reports. That should also be revealed to the audience here. Okay, the thesis is quite an innovative one, and it is significant and appropriately structured, is one of the examiners' comment. And the author has presented interesting results, and it is an in-depth reading and analysis that the scholar has done, is an observation that shows how much of work has gone into this thesis. And even I could find that a lot of work has been done, meticulous work has been done by the scholar as well as the supervisor in taking the scholar in the right direction. It's a good effort by the scholar. And uh, uh, any more observations that anybody else would like to add on to that? I think the supervisor should also add his observations about the candidate's work.
Suman, no, he's been with us. He's not only my PhD scholar, he also was my MPhil scholar. So he studied here, and no, he has been a very active research scholar, a full-time scholar. He would always like be very um, dedicated towards his research. I'm sure that he has done his research work pretty good, and no, there's a lot of things we can just keep on talking about. A lot of instances, a lot of memories pertaining to our academic activities, and so I really appreciate him on a whole, like for his wonderful work here today, and also for his presentation. And he has, I believe, he has defended his research work here today in front of all, and I actually wish him good luck for his future.
Thank you.
And thank you.
Yeah, thank you to the supervisor for bringing out so much of work that has gone behind. Only the supervisor can vouch for it. Okay, I just felt that some of the typographical errors could have been taken care of, and otherwise there's a lot of effort that has gone in the making of this thesis. So the final moment, or is it some other formality that is to be done?
Nothing else.
Okay. So in that case, if quite a satisfactory report from the examiners, quite a satisfactory report from the supervisor, and we have all seen the presentation of the candidate by candidate Suman Rajesh. So I feel that Mr. Suman Rajesh can be conferred with the Doctor of Philosophy for his work on reflections of postmodern theories in the select novels of Thomas Pynchon. And henceforth, the scholar Suman Rajesh can be addressed as Dr. Suman Rajesh. So congratulations to the supervisor also.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Congratulations, Dr. Suman Rajesh. All the very best for your future.
Thank you.
Okay. Suman, you may proceed with the vote of thanks.
Yeah, let him take in all these congratulations messages that are pouring in the chat box. I'm sure all his friends are eagerly waiting for this great moment, and people are wishing him. So congratulations, Dr. Suman Rajesh. It's a cherishable moment.
It would be very nice, instead of typing in there and then coming in and saying some words about him.
Yeah, that would also be nice. Yeah, somebody can congratulate him, making yourselves visible.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, ma'am. Suman, it was a very good presentation. I have nothing new to say. All the very best to you for your future, and congratulations, Dr. Suman. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much.
And thank you, ma'am. And we also look forward to your VIVA on Wednesday.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Hi, Suman. This is Gomati. My hearty congratulations. I am very happy to call you as Dr. Suman. All the best.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
That's nice.
Yeah, I hope we can, Suman, you may proceed to the vote of thanks.
Okay, sir. So, with my enormous pleasure, I express my sincere thanks to and gratitude to Dr. K. Ganesh, founder and Chancellor, Dr. R.P. K. Ganesh, Pro Vice Chancellor, Vice President, Pro Chancellor, Registrar and Control of the Examination of Wales Institute of Science, Technology and Advanced Studies, Chennai, for their valuable supports by providing facilities to complete my research work. I greatly thank to the doctoral committee, members of Dr. A. Ganesh, Assistant Professor, Department of English, RKM Venkateshwara College, Mylapore, Dr. J. Mangekarasi, Associate Professor and HOD, Department of English, Ethiraj College for the Women, Chennai, for the valuable suggestion to extend the research work. I thank my external and internal evaluators for their valuable comments and suggestions. I extend my heartfelt thanks to my external examination, Dr. K. Komadi. I extend my sincere thanks to Dr. R. Venkatraman, Professor and the HOD, Department of English, Wales Institute of Science, Technology and Advanced Studies, Chennai, for his kind and constant support and the guidance. I would like to I would also like thanks for the faculty members of the Department of English, Wales Institute of Science, Technology and Advanced Studies, Chennai, for their support and encouragement. All this moment I accomplished, first of all, I submit heartfelt gratitude to my research supervisor, Dr. B. Suresh, Associate Professor, Department of English, Wales Institute of Science and Technology and Advanced Studies, Chennai. Thank you so much, sir, for his valuable guidance, scholarly inputs, and consistent encouragement that I received throughout the research work. A person with a friendly and positive outlook, he always made himself available to clarify my doubts and gave him valuable suggestions and made correction with the spite of his busy schedule. I consider this a great opportunity to my research under the guidance, and I learned a lot from his research expertise. His unwavering courage and conviction will always inspire me, and I hope to continue work with his noble thoughts. I extend my profound thanks to Dr. S. Sadish Kumar, research team, Mr. R. Nageshwari, section officer, Mrs. S. Madhumadi, and Mrs. Sandhya, junior assistant research department, and all teaching staff in non-teaching staff of Wales Institute of Science, Technology, and Advanced Studies, Chennai, for the valuable support throughout my research work. I would like to thank Mr. Arvind Abu, who extended his hand to the proofreading my research work. I would like to extend my thanks to my co-researcher scholars, Dr. R. Prigia, Dr. J. Revadi, Ms. N. Sumadi, Ms. Susmita Bhattacharya, Dr. Angeline Jabba, Ms. B. Anuradha, and Ms. Maithili for their valuable support. I'm glad to express my heartfelt thanks to my friends and well-wishers, M. Ravi Pachemuthu, SRM Group Managing Director, M. Manoj Madhavakuti, SRM Group, Mr. Jalas, SRM Group, M. Manish, Mr. Sila Agnes Vidat, CEO of SRM University, Mr. Rain, Rene, Mr. Savitri, Mrs. Savitri, Mr. Andasegan, Mrs. Priya Minocha, Mr. Harris Fleming, Mr. Vijay Kumar, Dr. Ananda Kumar H, Dr. Almurugan, Mr. Vicky, Mr. Jayabol, and Annabel Frost, and the Father Christie, for the valuable support in my research journey. Words are inaccurate to express my special thanks to my parents, M.P. Cecilia George, M. Mary Stella Sebastian, my elder brother Dayalan, Assistant Commissioner of Police, Chennai, Mr. Kensi, Mr. Tas, and Mr. Sturgeon, Mr. John Praveen, Sister Sindhuja, family members, friends, and relatives for their continued support and encouragement during my research work. I also thank for the librarians, Wales University Central Library, Kannimara Library, and Anna Century Library, Chennai, and American College Library, Madurai, for the providing with the valuable source that were necessarily for the completeness of my thesis. I profoundly thank for all who assisted me directly and indirectly in completing this research work. Above, above all, I thank Almighty for the abundant grace which enabled me to complete my research work. Thank you so much, Para.
Thank you. I thank all of you for your time with us. And thank you very much, ma'am. We are always indebted to you, ma'am. Thank you for your time, ma'am. I really appreciate your time. Yes. Thank you all. Thank you all. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.